Look who we've managed to come across, all thanks to Mike and his eagle eyes. Coming back to exactly where he last was. So when we last saw him this morning, he's actually moved back to where we initially saw him. And you can see how he's tucked himself away underneath all those shrubs and a fallen tree. But not even this little bit of shade that he's found himself can cool the king. You can see him panting quite heavily. There we go. It was looked like a Jacobin cuckoo that flew over the top of us. Sorry, I don't know if you heard that noise. Obviously, with my butterfly syndrome, it caught my attention. Only I could get distracted by a bird while we were looking at a leopard. But anyway, back to Tingana. Isn't he a lovely boy? Now, I'm hoping that it cools down quite quickly this afternoon. It is extremely hot, and so hopefully he will get up. But perhaps with that large belly that we saw him with this morning, that might not be on the cards for this afternoon. But we'll just hang around and see and hopefully he moves. Something that I absolutely love about his face, and hopefully he looks towards us again, are those beautiful markings between his eyes. They really are sort of quite unique, almost forming like a cross on his head, and X marks the spot. Can you see that? That's really beautiful. And I was looking through photos of Tingana today, and that was something that caught my attention. It's seen as though we've been speaking about identifying features of the various leopards in the area. Look at the size of his dewlap, though. It really is quite impressive. And that's normally an indication of maturity. Not all leopards get it. I have seen some older boys who don't really have a well-developed dewlap. But of course, male leopards like the Anderson male and of course Mbavala, the two contenders for the largest leopards in the sands, they have got massive dewlaps. Something seems to be biting him. You can see the flies are obviously annoying him quite a bit. Now I'm getting a nice suntan here in the sun this afternoon. Shame he's getting very frustrated with all these flies. There are lots of midges around. The ants have started to release their alates, so they're all out as well. Now, you probably can hear him shuffling around and kicking his legs quite a bit there. Maybe there's some ants or something crawling on him. Now, Birthday Bash, you're wondering how old Tingana is. For the top of my head, I can't remember, but something wants me to say around 9 years old. Am I correct? Mike, do you know how old he is? There we go. So Mike and I have got some telepathic connections going on at the moment that we think somewhere between 9 and 10 years old. He's not a young boy, of course. You can see when he opens his mouth, his canines are definitely not as sharp and pointy as they were when he was maybe 5 years old. And you can see he's got a couple of scars on his face. He's definitely well worn, or he's got lots of experience to show on his skin. You can see his ears are a little bit tattered as well. Looks like he's got an old scar across his nose, perhaps from an altercation that he had with another male leopard. Maybe Mvula got on the wrong side of him. Ah, okay. Maybe even Shadow, maybe even a female leopard. They can be quite feisty sometimes and give the odd swipe. Thanks, VM. But at least he's sitting still this time, and he hasn't got his head tucked between his legs, fast asleep. Maybe it was a reason as to why we only got a sneak and a little sneak peek of him this morning, so that we were able to go around and have a look at the young Ingrid's dam female. And then, of course, now, well, Tingana, the show is yours. Look at him, he's so beautiful. If I had air conditioning or a fan for him, I'd definitely hold it over him. I'm so happy to hear that you're all sending in all your screenshots. That's fantastic. Remember, if you'd like to also ask any questions or just share your pictures with us or your favorite moments, you're welcome to do so by either hashtagging Safari Live on Twitter or Alternatively, you could send us an email, questions@WildEarth.tv. That's lovely. And I'm sure he's enjoying the rest after Shadow has been trying to follow him around over the past couple of weeks. Oh, he's having a well-deserved break. I'm just very quickly going to apply some more sunscreen. Sorry, I'm sitting directly in the sun and I'm burning away. But while I do that, I think let's go back across to Steph for a very quick update. Now, thankfully, Tingana got up and he actually moved out of that little cool spot that he was sitting in, which had a couple of leaves hiding his face, and now we've got an even better view of him. But he still looks rather hot, but at least he hasn't gone back to sleep yet, and hopefully he won't. I think he is just waiting as the sun drops, and it is doing that very quickly. We know how quickly that sun disappears behind the horizon, and finally there's actually a cool breeze coming through now, which I am enjoying very much, and I think VM is appreciating it too. Tingana, I don't know if you're getting this lovely breeze we're getting because you're so low and down in the drainage, but I suppose at least he's out of the sun. You can't have everything. No, don't go back to sleep. Keep those eyes open, as we would like to see some action. And I'm so glad that finally we've got the leopards back. Hopefully this will be the start of some type of a trend, and Karula will come back with her cubs, and perhaps we'll see Shadow. I've only ever seen Shadow once at the very beginning when I first started here at Wild Earth, and I haven't seen her since. I think it was actually in the first week. You can see the flies are bothering him terribly. Even his tail is going. Come on, use it as a swatter. You're not swatting very well. Here we go. Must be something biting him, because it seems as though whatever's going after him, it seems to be around his rear end. Hello, Willow, who is 4 years old. Willow, I hope you're enjoying watching this show. Isn't it amazing that we're sitting with this big, beautiful leopard? Now, Willow wants to know, will he growl at the flies? I don't think so. I think he'll pull a couple of faces, and of course you can see he gets a little bit irritated with all those flies. He's kicking his legs around and swatting his tail and trying to bite them. Look at him doing all these crazy things. Now he's trying to swat them with his paws, but I don't think he'll growl at them too much. There we go. What are you going to do? Oh, I thought he was going to get up again for us. But at least I'm really happy that he's decided to come out, and I think he sat on some nice sort of cool soil. If I were him, I would try and find the part of the drainage that's still a bit damp from the rain that we had, and I think that would be a nice spot to go and sit. Perhaps he will move, though, with all these insects biting him. He looks to be very frustrated at the moment. I'm still panting really hard, trying to cool down. Don't worry, Mr. Tingana, it won't be too long before it gets nice and cool, and you'll be able to carry on with your day. And hopefully we'll be able to spend a bit of time with Tingana this afternoon and see what he gets up to. You know what I'm like? I like to sit and watch the animals sleep, of course, to only be rewarded with them up and moving around. Now, Janine, you're wondering if any of the big cats purr. You know who purrs really well? It's those cheetah. They purr so loudly it almost sounds like a car engine rumbling. But unfortunately, we don't really hear the leopards and the lions purring. They do make all sorts of strange noises, and perhaps, maybe it's something I'll do a little bit later for you. I don't want to do it right here when Tingana is sitting just a couple of meters away. But perhaps I'll do my leopard call for you, and you can tell me, or maybe we'll have a challenge today. Maybe we can challenge Steph and Byron to leopard calls, and we can see who does it the best. Like I said, though, I won't be able to do it right here. So I can imagine it would probably upset Tingana a little bit, and of course, we don't want to do that. It's so hot at the moment that the birds aren't even wasting their time singing away. It only seems to be the couple of flies that are annoying me and annoying Tingana. And of course the cicadas in the very far distance. But even they seem few and far between today. Now Andrew wants to know who VM's favourite leopard character is. VM, who's your favourite leopard?
That's a tough one.
VM says it's a tough one. He's now pondering.
Well, I suppose you go on too much at the top.
Well, Andrew, we are actually sitting with VM's favourite leopard at the moment. He says that it is indeed Tingana. And I don't blame him. He's a beautiful leopard. I still have yet to see the Anderson male. And I can't wait for that day. I probably will get out after the sighting and do handstands and cartwheels for anybody that's willing to watch. And I've been practicing my cartwheels, so they're getting more and more graceful by the day. But I think we're going to have to start doing rain dances again. As the rain, just the clouds keep building up, we get a bit of lightning and then we're not getting any more. Well, it's getting hot enough, as you can see. It's so bright and so sunny here. Now, I'm very happy, like I said, that we've managed to find Tingana this afternoon. And I know he's just sitting, not doing very much at the moment. But one thing that you have to remember when you do come on safari is you have to be patient. If you want to see the action, you've got to be willing to sit and be prepared. Just even if you sit quietly and watch, you don't have to say much and just enjoy it until those exciting moments unravel. But let's see what he's up to, if those flies are still pestering him. And I apologize if you can hear some squeaking. We've parked at a very odd angle. I'm sort of parked on a slope of a drainage line, and I keep squeaking on the steering wheel. You can see those flies on the top of his left ear on our right-hand side of the screen. Well, they were sitting there now. And like I was saying, the flies that are around at the moment seem to be biting. They were biting me yesterday, and I actually got stung by something in my eye this morning while on drive, while lurking around Arathusa. I don't know what it was. It could have actually been, I don't actually know what it was. It was a funny looking thing, and I think that's probably a variety of different insects that are coming out or after those rains. So if my eye looks a little bit red today, it's because I got stung and I'm having a little bit of an allergic reaction, but don't worry, I'll be all right. You see lots and lots of flies buzzing around him. Now, I was surprised that he didn't go and scavenge on one of those buffalo carcasses that we've been seeing over the last couple of days, because he wasn't far. Apparently he was in Torchwood, not too far away from Cheetah Cutline. And of course we had the one carcass just off Drakensberg Road, the buffalo that died from the injury that he sustained from another buffalo. And then of course that the youngish buffalo that we saw off Mamba Road, which the lions were feeding on one morning and one afternoon. I thought that he probably would have picked up the scent and headed straight in that direction. Right, let's very quickly go across to Byron. We are still sitting with the beautiful king, and we are watching him pant away and swat all the flies. He hasn't caught any flies just yet. I've been doing a count. Almost. That was close. That was the closest he's come so far. And I'm sure you can hear the buffalo weavers behind me. Typical. Every single time I mention birds, they stop chatting. And the reason why I like to point out the bird calls as we sit with the various animals, it's just quite nice, I think, to start learning the calls as well. It's one thing being able to identify the various birds, of course, by sight. It takes a whole new skill to identify them by hearing. And I think it's nice for you to sit at home and be able to go, I know that bird. I'm sure you're getting some great screenshots as he tries to bite all the flies. But he hasn't really shown us any other signs of moving just yet. He hasn't started grooming himself. And I'm sure he'll give himself a quick groom before he does get up and start moving. We know that this is normally one of the signs. However, oh no, I was just about to say, with all this sort of jumping around and trying to swat all the flies, perhaps he's going to need another siesta. And just before I could get those words out, well, it looks like he's going to have another nap again. I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to get up just yet and start wandering around the bush. I think it's a bit too warm. I don't even think we've seen any impala yet this afternoon. Now we're watching him swat away, and I know that myself and, of course, the other presenters, we always chat about how in Kenya and Tanzania we often see the lions and things sitting up in trees to avoid all the biting insects. And Alice is wondering exactly that. Alice says this afternoon, why hasn't he gone up a tree to avoid the insects? Now, Alice, I don't know. That's where I would be. I'd be sitting definitely on the top of a marula tree with nice and shade. He probably still have a couple of flies bothering him up there, but I think there's some ants and sorts of other goodies down on the ground, because he gets quite upset. And I don't think it's the flies that are doing all the biting. I think there's something else that's annoying him as well. You can see every time it's something around his rump, he swats the tail, and then he kicks his back legs. He's getting very agitated. Now we're probably just going to be able to spend a couple more minutes here, but then we're going to have to pull out. I know there's some other guides who are dying to come and see. And we have spent a good amount of Mr. Tingana this evening. Of course, if there is a spot that perhaps opens up again a little bit later, well then, we can always see if we can come back. But I can hear another vehicle moving into the sighting, and I know that Ephraim has only just got here with his guests. So I feel as though we're going to have to leave in a minute or two. My goodness, those buffalo weavers are making all sorts of noise. Isn't this lovely? Right, I think grab your final screenshots as he glares back at us. Isn't that lovely? And I'm going to have to do a little bit of maneuvering now to get myself out of this little situation that I got myself into. But let's go back across to Steph and see how he's doing in the sun. So I am indeed not by... I don't know. Wait, was Steph trying to go to Byron? I'm not sure. But we've got Mr. Tingana, and that's all that matters. And he's fighting the flies. And now he's up and moving around. He was lying in some mud to try and keep cool, and I think try and keep away from the flies. There he goes. He's pacing it, though. Not happy at all about all these flies. So I'm just going to, maybe we'll try and roll back. No, we're not going to run out of steam. We'll reverse quickly. Let's see where he's off to. But he's been biting the flies and fighting them. Not happy at all. Hey, big boy. Isn't this lovely? He is such a beautiful leopard. Are you going to try there? Or are you just using the luxury facilities? Now, this is the first proper opportunity I've really been able to photograph him. But look at the size of his neck. He is turning into a monster of a leopard. He's really looking lovely and good and very healthy, which is great to see that the king is still indeed the king. And if he continues to look like this, well, then I think it's going to be very difficult that someone is going to take over his territory anytime soon. I think I ate a fly. I'm just going to swallow. That was nasty. Right. Now, I'm going to go around quickly. Bear with me for 2 seconds. Now, Wild Earth Girl, You want to know, do lions or leopards show any preference to their left or right paw? Not that I've seen. However, you know, with humans, how we all have a dominant foot or a dominant hand. I couldn't imagine it not being that with cats. We see it with elephant. They have a preference whether they're left or right-handed, which tusk they seem to use more. So I reckon that it is quite possible, and that's a question I've never been asked before. So, Wild Earth Girl, thank you. It's something that I'll have to do a bit more research about. It's something that I haven't come across just while reading. And I wonder if actually anybody would be able to know the difference. I don't know what you would look for. If you'd look for perhaps more wearing in the pads of their feet, perhaps that would be an indication. But you can see him there. He's very much frustrated with, of course, all these flies. And I thought that he may earlier have got up and moved to a pile of mud, which he was doing. But I think, unfortunately, all that did was brought more flies towards him because, of course, they're also going after the moisture. It's extremely hot today. But there we go. That's some beautiful shots that I'm sure you'll be able to get. My lens is way too long now, so you're going to have to take lovely pictures for me. And of course, it's getting a bit dark to really get any good photos. So there he goes. Now, I hope he doesn't cross south. That's the risk. Let's quickly try and... I'm going to give him a bit of room because this morning he didn't seem to be too happy with the vehicles. But he doesn't seem too bothered by us, and of course, it's just us moving. Okay, we need to quickly try and take a gap. I'm going to get in front of him again. I'm going to give him a wide berth. Otherwise, we're going to lose him. And I think he's going to cross south off of our traverse. We're right on Gowrie Main now. So let me try and zip around. And sometimes these cats just have off days. So he hasn't shown us that he's upset with us at all, but just from his behavior this morning of not wanting to be seen, it's quite unusual for him. So let's give him a bit of room. But luckily he's sat down again. Not. And there he is. Looks much happier now. Just angle those lights at him. Hello, big boy. And look at that beautiful face of his. I can't help but take a couple of pictures. Like I said, this is the first time that I've really had the opportunity to see him. I want to take full advantage of this. But it's difficult. It's easier, I think, for you to take photos and take the screenshots, because I've got to have my ISO right up and my shutter speed quite low, which makes it quite difficult in this light to photograph. Now you can really see how majestic this leopard is. And with those clouds coming over, it's potentially a good evening to hunt. Hopefully they will engulf the sky. The only thing, though, is we seem to have a downpour of rain and then the leopards disappear for quite a few days. So I hope they don't, if it does rain, I hope they don't go for too long. You can also hear the birds calling for one last time before the light disappears. The cicadas in the background as well. That's that high-pitched noise that you're hearing that we've been chatting about. Shame, big man. You need some elephant dung to be burnt around you, and then perhaps all those insects will leave you alone. Right, we're going to unfortunately lose this leopard, so I think it's time to say goodbye to him. But let's go back across to Steph, or maybe we'll have another sighting of him, but let's go back to Steph very quickly. We've still got Tingana. Thankfully, he didn't cross. He's just getting very frustrated because of all the flies. Though I'm scared I'm going to jinx it for him. He seems to not be as agitated in his new spot. He has, since we last saw you, moved 3 times. He even resorted to sitting underneath a large fruited bush willow. And he covered himself with all the branches and the leaves, but not even that could keep the insects at bay. But finally, it seems as though he is coming to peace, or at least it's maybe getting a bit dark now, and perhaps all the flies are going away. They've stopped bothering me so much. So maybe it's just a couple that are hard workers and don't mind working overtime. You can see all those flies still hanging around. He said, now go home, flies. You're supposed to be diurnal, not nocturnal, and give Mr. Tingana a break. He said to put up with all your nonsense the entire day. It's quite ridiculous. Don't worry, Tingana. I'll leave some elephant poop burning for you. And then hopefully that will help a little bit. Hopefully we'll be able to follow up on him again in the morning. Maybe he won't go south, but perhaps he'll come back north. VM says that he hopes to hear his calls this evening on quarantine, and of course so do I. I miss the rasping of a leopard. Now, I didn't get to do my leopard call for you, unfortunately, and with him sitting so close, I'm probably not going to do it, just in case it upsets him a little bit. But tomorrow morning, I promise that I shall do a leopard call for you. And whoever else is driving, maybe if Steph's out on a walk again, we're going to get him to do one. We'll practice tonight, perhaps. Now, unfortunately, we're coming through to the last few seconds of the show, and I hope you've had a wonderful day with us. I just want to say thank you to all the lovely ladies in Final Control and everybody else, Steph and Byron. Hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you for the Sunrise Safari.